The development of categories seems to be largely under the control of two behavioral principles: discrimination and generalization. The class formation not only refers to complex activities, such as symbolization, for example, having a fundamental biological role, since it is involved in identifying sites, predators, food, and the distinction between individuals of the same species and of other animals. The process for forming classes, or categories, occurs when an organism responds in a generalized way within a set of stimuli, while responds in a discriminatory manner among different stimuli. Imagine, for example, the Emilio Gotti Museum, with several species of local fauna, like ounces, macaws, monkeys, alligators. You could probably say that all these beings are in the category animals, and at the same time is able to distinguish the different types of animals, that is, in addition to forming a broad class, could drift them into subclasses or subcategories. Taking part of these two principles, we believe that the generalization is a process in which, after a historical conditioning, an organism responds with high probability to a stimulus, and can respond the same way to others who share these common features. In the case of example, in the same place there are macaws, herons, toucans, harpy eagles, which have in common things like wings, beaks, and feathers, so that, in the presence of all of them, you call birds. Likewise, discrimination occurs when an organism responds with high probability in the presence of a stimulus, and the same response occurs with low probability in the absence of this stimulus. Thus, it is understood that the categorial behavior occurs when a set of stimuli evokes the same response in an organism at the same time that this response does not occur in the presence of stimuli from other sets. For example, you would be able to appoint a macaw of macaw, and most likely would not appoint a macaw of toucan. The objective of this study was to train two Capuchin monkeys, using 12 sets of stimuli. The repertoire of choice discriminated between items of different categories and generalized choice of items in the same category, gradually increasing the number of stimuli in each category, decreasing the similarity between these stimuli, with the introduction of new stimuli as well as iconic stimuli, and arbitrary stimulus in order to transfer performance learned in the training for the conditional discrimination. Were used for this study two Capuchin monkeys, ET, M07, and Eusebio, M26, both adult and with experimental historic residents of experimental school primates, EP. The procedure consisted of a training and training again simultaneous simple discrimination. Each session was divided into 2 blocks. In the first block, trials had 3 choices. 1S+ related to availability reinforced stimulus, and 2S- stimuli not related to availability of reinforced stimulus belonging to the other 2 categories. If the subject touched one of the stimuli defined as S-, the trial was resubmitted for up to twice, or until the subject touched the correct stimulus. For example, the set of stimuli, butterflies, is defined as S+ for this session, and the stimuli, crabs, and flies, are S-. If the subject touch a butterfly, he will be reinforced. If he choose a fly, for example, he will not be reinforced. Reached the criterion of 10 consecutive correct choices, the second block was started, otherwise the session was closed with 30 trials. In the second block, the trials were characterized by presenting 12 stimuli simultaneously, 1S+ and 11S- that belonged to other categories. The S plus remained the same as defined in the first block. If the criterion of 10 consecutive correct choices was not met, the block was closed with 30 trials achieved the performance criterion. The session was closed, and the next session would include a new category of S plus until all 12 categories. The subject ET took 42 sessions to complete the training and training again. The subject Eusebio took 44 sessions. Both the subjects reached the criterion of 10 consecutive correct choices. Both showed results of simple discrimination training sessions with 12 categories, with high performance in some of them, with up to 100% accuracy. The favorable performance of both was enough to continuing the study, and a new stage will be initiated. Continuing the study will be carried out the testing phase, which will consist of 2 stages. In the first stage, there will be a generalization test, which will contain 30 trials in each block, with no correction procedure. In each category a set of stimuli will be replaced. A is replaced by F, for example. In the second stage, a conditionality test will be performed. The same baseline stimuli will be presented in trials to conditional discrimination in the format of matching the sample with zero delay. There will be 2 types of trials: the identity (IDMTS), in which the correct comparison is equal to the sample, and category (CAT-MTS), wherein the correct comparison is another member of the category. The same test procedure will be repeated from the first step using the iconic stimuli, and finally using arbitrary stimuli. This phase, with arbitrary stimuli, will be performed in order to produce pertinent to the class, so that the stimuli that previously shared physical characteristics can share the same function with the new arbitrary stimuli that will compose the category, so it is possible to performance transfer in simple discrimination to conditional discrimination.